Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. Today's video is inspired by one of my previous Let's Resin projects. I think it's my favourite resin project so far, but it was an awful lot of work. I will put a link to that video if you're interested in seeing it. But I wanted to make a quick version of that. So that's what I will be doing today, making a jewellery box for my mum using Let's Resin's storage box mould. If that sounds like fun, stay tuned and enjoy the video. The mould that I'm using today is the storage box mould from Let's Resin, and the wonderful thing about Let's Resin's moulds is that it usually says the volume on the mould, and it did with these ones. I knew that I needed 12 fluid ounces of resin. I'm using Let's Resin's regular epoxy resin, that's a 1:1 resin by volume, and so I've measured out 6 fluid ounces of part A and 6 fluid ounces of part B, and I'm just pouring them into my silicone mixing cup. I then gave it a really good mix with my automatic mixer, also from Let's Resin, and then after mixing it I put it into my bubble removal machine, also, you guessed it, from Let's Resin. And I did just miss out quite an important detail in the mixing process. I added some liquid black pigment. Yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. If you have Let's Resin's black epoxy resin, that would be absolutely perfect for this job, but I didn't have any of that left. So I just added liquid opaque pigment, and that works really well. So there you can see all the bubbles have come to the top. I should have given it a little bit longer, but when it finishes, when the timer runs down, that's what happens. It all shrinks down and most of the bubbles pop. So here I have both my moulds ready with their wooden frame around them to support them. But you might have noticed something, especially on the one on the left. These have been in storage for probably about 2 years now. I haven't used them in ages. And yeah, they've distorted a bit because I think I've packed them away not very carefully, and one of the sides was bent in, and I was hoping that once the resin was in there, it would make it keep its shape a bit better, you know, the pressure of the resin on the inside. And it did a little bit, but not 100%. I did end up with a little bit of a distorted lid, but still it was fine. I was happy with the finished result. In fact, I was more than happy with the finished result. For a quick project, this one turned out so easy, but so good. But I'm blowing my own trumpet there. You might disagree. We'll see what you think at the end. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get on with this. One thing about this mould is that it has an overhang at the top, and all the resin will come to the top and cause little air bubbles if you're not careful. And what I did do was I went around it with a micro brush to try and get rid of all those gaps that were already in there. I don't know if you can see them on your screen, but especially the one I'm doing at the moment, there's some gaps there, and I really needed to get rid of those. And I also needed to add some more resin. I mixed up a little bit more. I didn't quite have enough. I think what happened was I left too much in my original measuring cups. Didn't clean them out enough, so I ended up with not quite enough. Almost, but not quite. With the resin being poured and left to cure, it was time to start thinking about the decoration for the top of my box. I decided to use my shell veneer from Laura's Art Corner because I thought that would look fabulous against the black, and I decided to cut it on my laser engraver and cutter. This was just my choice of decoration. There's all kinds of ways you could decorate it, and yeah, I don't think you need me to tell you that. You can use your imagination. But yeah, you could put anything you like on there, and I do love this shell veneer. If you don't have a laser cutter, you can still cut the veneer by hand, but I wouldn't recommend trying it on something like a Cricut. It just doesn't work. yeah, I would recommend either using scissors or a laser cutter. And now I've jumped ahead to the next day and it's all ready to come out of the moulds. Let's see if I had any major air pockets trapped in there. I was a little bit worried. Well, it's kind of hard for you to see with it being so black, but it did turn out pretty good. I've got to say, it wasn't perfect. You can see there's a bit of a bend in there where the mould wasn't quite standing straight, and there were a few micro bubbles on the ridge, you know, where they got trapped in the mould, but not too bad, so I was fairly pleased. Right, you can see the shape of my Art Deco inspired design a little bit better now. I'm just putting it onto some transfer tape and peeling off the protective paper off the back to reveal the sticky adhesive side. And then with that done, I was able to put it into position on the lid of the box. And I did cut most of that out because my head got in the way because I was looking so closely and you wouldn't have seen anything. So I decided to cut my head off, so to speak. And I think that looks really good. It was still a little bit bendy because I'd only just demolded it. And so the pressure, you know, pressing down the veneer on the box was causing the lid to sag a little bit. So that's why I just turned it over and pressed it down from the inside. And so, yeah, I was really pleased with that, but I couldn't leave it like that. It needed a top coat of resin, and that was the next step. For the top coat, I decided to use Let's Resin's Fast Cure resin for two reasons. The main reason was I was in a real rush so that I could get my video out to you on time. But the other reason was I'd run out of my regular epoxy. If I'm honest, regular epoxy is much better for this because it's clearer. And yeah, Fast Cure resin is brilliant stuff, but it has more of a tendency to hold on to its bubbles because it's thicker. But I was in a rush and it worked well for me and it did its job. Later that day, it was ready to hold the matching jewellery which I'd made for my mum's birthday, and I thought that looked really beautiful too. For that, I used Let's Resin's UV resin, the black one, and that was a nice quick job. But I did that off camera because, as you know, I was rushing. But there we go. I think it looks wonderful. What do you think? If you've been tempted to try out any of the products you've seen in today's video, please check out the video description for links and discount codes. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and leave a comment if you would like to. And also subscribing would be awesome. And I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching and bye for now.